Welcome back to Count Me In, IMA's podcast about all things affecting the accounting and finance world. I'm your host, Mitch Rochong, and today we're going to hear about the popular topic of business partnering. Adam spoke with Rohit Thakkar, finance business partner at Adobe, to define the role of a business partner and explain how you can guide the business with strategic decisions. So now, let's head over and listen to the conversation.
So, Rohit, how has the business partner's role become a navigator or co-pilot for finance in the organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. So think about it this way: the traditional roles within finance are changing and evolving, and one such role is that of an FP&A, which is evolving, into a finance business partner profile as well. From just a traditional FP&A partner who was supposed to, do reporting for the business. Now we are looked upon, and rightly so, should be the trusted partner for various business organizations that we support. To succeed in this profile, I'm absolutely convinced of being a friend. Now, as they say, a friend is not the one who is, has been the longest with you, but who can be relied upon to keep various, various teams grounded in expectations, show the true and fair picture, and who can manage to tell the right business story and bring the right business conversation into context. Navigator, by definition, if you go to a dictionary, you will find the definition itself by means that who can direct the course of the ship by using various instruments and devices. Now, in a corporate setup, that role, the ship becomes the corporate becomes the ship. The route is the direction we are heading to and finding ways on where we want to reach. The instrument and devices are, the final business plans and the financial plans that we are talking about, and we develop through the course of, our journey into the financial planning. Now, a critical role is that, it entails a lot of work in joining various dots within the organization. I'll give you an example here. We undergo an extensive process of planning exercise that requires us to understand the overall market opportunity. It actually starts with, understanding the TAM of the market. So, TAM is nothing but total available market. So we need to understand as finance business partner what our overall market opportunity is. We need to have an extensive analysis and understanding around how much penetration do we have in those markets, where do we stand, where we want to go, what kind of a product fit that we have in all those markets, who are our customers, what kind of needs that we are trying to address with our products, what is our competitive landscape. Now that's where the actual financial planning activity should start from finance business partnership point of view. Now, it's easier said in like 2 or 3 sentences, but it really requires a lot of work to, do analysis, kind of get into the surveys and, get the survey results, interpret those surveys, and, try to create customer segmentation for your own products within the organization. So the second thing, in this product, in this roadmap is, understanding about the product roadmap is very important. It's essential for the business partner to understand the vision of the product managers and the business units. It is important at this time also to factor in what it will take to realize the product goals. During this exercise of what we call, the planning exercise or the partnership, it becomes important as next logical step to understand and work upon our pricing and packaging. That is where a close coordination is required with another dot in the matrix organization like say Adobe to work very closely with the product marketing management teams. We chart out our plans around how much units, how much ARR we want to drive, how much ARR we want to generate, and achieve those targets realistically. We need to chalk out plans around how we want to market the product. Suppose we want to grow a product by say 20% in ARR. Now, how many units we should expect to sell? What kind of efforts would be required by say, various other teams like web sales teams go-to-market team, phone teams, partnership teams that we would need to materialize and achieve those targets. Now, joining these dots across organization and ensuring that various parts of organization understand their financial contribution, responsibilities, and in turn leadership signing off, giving them authority to execute to plans is the most critical role as a finance business partner.
So you've really kind of shown how finance becomes that business partner to the whole business, how it connects to each little section, and that kind of goes to guiding the whole business. So what is that finance business partner's role when it comes to developing something like KPIs?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Let me try to define what actually the KPI is. KPIs by definition are those indicators that organizations should choose very wisely to reflect the actual performance, and they should be forward looking. They should be something that should be measurable, right? So it's super important for us to not just get bogged down by the financial KPIs, but to understand the relevance and the need of business KPIs. So business KPIs ideally should be forward looking, especially in a metrics organization, like Adobe. We tend to drive our planning activities by DACI metrics, DACI. So what that stands for, and you can find that in Six Sigma literature, but we definitely practice that, is who is going to be the driver, who is going to be the approver, who is going to be the contributor, and who do we need to keep informed when it comes to informing the results. So it becomes super important for us in metrics organization to ensure that we are able to derive responsibility assignment metrics as well from the DACI exercise. Now, role of finance is to sit across the table, bring folks from all across the organization, and work to create those KPIs to understand the role for themselves in setting up those business KPIs. Now, we cannot just set up the financial KPIs and say that, we can't be the monitor and say that, okay, go get the results for us. We need to be super practical and understand what kind of a business KPIs we need to drive to get to our financial KPIs. Financial KPIs, so there's a circular reference. If you have to think about it this way, there is a circular reference between financial KPIs and business KPIs. At one end, you have financial KPIs, which are kind of a derivative of the business KPIs. And on the other end, think about it like financial KPIs should be influencing your business KPIs as well. So I'll give you an example on one of the key financial forward-looking metrics that we definitely look for in the subscription business. That's the ARR, the annualized recurring revenue. That's considered to be much more forward-looking compared to the revenue or the top line. Now, the role of finance business partner actually goes beyond setting up this financial KPI. Think about it this way, it is kind of similar to activity-based costing, where organizations should move to activity-based revenue or top-line planning to identify the drivers for the top line. Let's say, you are in an e-commerce setup based company. Now, the most important thing that you would want to watch and be careful about is tracking the traffic to your websites and how good they are able to convert such traffic. Now, in that kind of case scenario, the business KPI would be traffic, would be your conversion rates, and not just the financial KPI of what ARR that you want to drive from the web sales. I had a great opportunity of working with a company Freescale as well. So Freescale was a spun off from Motorola, so it was a great company, quite learning experience for me myself, wherein I was looking at R&D effectiveness matrices. And so, one of the tasks that I was working on was creating the R&D effectiveness metrics for the entire organization. And in turn, I realized that the entire value chain for a semiconductor chip actually has a lot of variation from an automotive chip that takes like an year to develop and 2 years to get into manufacturing versus a wireless kind of a setup chip which would take like 6 to 7 years to deliver the results. Now it I started mapping out the process right from the wafer size, and I realized that just the costing of the per unit cost just doesn't make sense to me. In order to ensure that I am able to effectively find the business KPIs, I mapped out the entire process and figured out that we need to set up business KPIs around what kind of wafer size we are targeting, then define the assembly and test yields, not just the cost, what kind of a yield we are targeting from our backend as well as front end manufacturing units, what kind of burn in time is required, what kind of packaging is required to deliver a zero defect package results. So that becomes the part of an entire playbook. Um, I'll give you another example. And it goes to the usage of the product. Now, if you can map the usage of the product and you can identify how engaged your customer is, a, a typical business KPI in that scenario would be NPS. It serves as a great net promoter score. It serves as a great metrics to identify how loyal your customer is to the product. Of course, higher the better. But what finance business partner must understand is the trends and impact on retention of those customers to have a better recurring revenue, impacting the lifetime value for the organization. So that's super important for us to understand how we are setting up KPIs, identifying what KPIs need to be set, not just for the financials, but for the business.
I think those are some great examples kind of coming in all together. So could just kind of putting this all together with all the financial business partners acting as navigator for the organization, how do you recommend somebody can bridge that gap between this long-term strategic plan, a lot of examples you just kind of gave, with the short-term goals, the daily operations, and the more traditional responsibilities? And then how does that person, become that business partner if the organization doesn't see the finance as that business partner?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine balance, and I think at times we confuse ourselves in as our role as finance business partner for just the long term vision perspective. And I would believe that you can actually be a finance business partner in the short term scenario as well as the long term scenario. Um, so we work on the long term strategy, and then the short term goals are the natural derivative of the long term strategy. Just as in the case of any of defining those long term strategies, the finance jockeys are required to coordinate with the product PMMs, the product managers and the teams across. The short term FBPs, or the finance business partners or the finance jockeys, they have they must ensure that they are partnering very well with the sales and marketing organizations, with the go to market teams that are required to deliver the results. So when it comes to responsibility, these teams are responsible to deliver the results, but it is very, very important for us to ensure and understand what our expectations are, how realistic those expectations are, and we have a continuous dialogue and continuous conversations with those teams. It is also important that those tasked with managing short-term results, they must have the right feedback. They must have the right channel of giving feedback uh, to the teams who are managing the long-term goals, so as to ensure that we are keeping abreast of our performance and ensuring that if there is anything uh, you know uh, uh, anything that can be flagged off like really early, that would be great sign for the long-term strategic planning teams to figure out how do we factor those in and discount for. Just as the critical role of finance is, it's equally important that role of go to markets and sales teams must be recognized. We must support them from overall to support the overall long-term vision, we must support them in the the short-term scenario. The delivery of short-term goals are super important for sustainable value-creating business in the long run. To sum up, I would say the finance business partner profile is a kind of a very forward-looking profile and not just a reporting profile. So, a lot of folks get bogged down by reporting in the short run, and that's exactly not what it just needs. It needs you to up-level your conversations in the short term as well as the long term and ensure that you have a continuous dialogue across organization to influence, participate, and modulate these business strategies to support the overall vision and purpose of the organization.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.